40% Merlot, 40% Malbec, and 20%
Tastes
Cab
good for you.
Welcome to the Wine Enthusiast Podcast, the world in your glass.
Ignore the fake news on Facebook. There's no shortage of rosé wine this year. Just in case, we recommend stocking up on Collection des Anges. This Provençal rosé tastes dry, fresh, and fruity, and it's perfect poolside with friends or paired with summer foods. Look for Collection des Anges rosé at fine wine shops everywhere and drink real wine with real people. Susan Kostrava, Executive Editor of Wine Enthusiast magazine. In this week's episode, I talk about the wine of the season, rosé, and chat with rosé experts on its rise in popularity, different styles and regions to check out, and how to pair the pink stuff with your favorite food.
I'm Niels Bernstein, food editor at Wine Enthusiast.
Rosé, to me, is one of the most pairable wines on the planet. And I want to know why you think that is.
Without a doubt, I have to agree. I always say when people ask me what the number one kind of wine that will pair with anything, the foolproof wine is a rosé champagne. I think you.
Ooh, you just hit two of my favorite things in the world. Thank you for reminding me of that.
I didn't just say that for your benefit, but I think it's absolutely true.
I am happy about it.
But in general, I think rosé, it can pair with almost anything because, of course, it straddles the white and red sides. You can think of it as kind of a fun, maybe fuller-bodied white. You can think of it as a lighter red. But, of course, it's in its own category, and it can kind of straddle the pairings that you might do, that you might go more white toward or more red toward. Rosé can usually handle both.
Well, and there's so many rosés being made now from in different regions, with different grapes, obviously. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about the diversity of flavors within the rosé category that you've noticed.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I feel like not that long ago, most of them had a very easy, very fruit forward, very light, kind of easy drinking, outdoor barbecue, summer kind of vibe. And I've been tasting so many more, for lack of a better word, serious rosés. Not even necessarily, sometimes people kind of associate color with strength or drama in the rosé category, but I've had some incredibly complex, savory, pale rosés.
Well, that's actually really good, as a consumer, as a wine drinker, when you go to a wine shop or you're in a restaurant, yeah, you shouldn't assume that if something has a dark color or a dark pink color that it's going to be a heavy rosé or a heavy wine.
Right.
Because as you said, color doesn't always determine the sweetness level or the dryness level.
Right. Or the alcohol level. Right. And so it's been really interesting to see where there might be a really full, complex, pale rosé that I might have with duck, for example. And then there might be a really juicy, berry-forward dark rosé that I might have with a salad. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's just interesting to play around with them because they're so flexible. It's fun to kind of, put one down in front of every course, or if you're at a restaurant, kind of get any that they have by the glass and just see how it feels with different dishes.
What are some of your foods that you really love pairing with rosé? I
think one thing that I like to think about in terms of rosé is, again, people think of it as very easy drinking wine, and they might be tempted to pair it with very simple or lighter foods. But rosé can take a lot. I mean, I like it with grilled sausages. You think about Provençal rosés with Mediterranean cuisine. You're talking garlic and peppers and olives and onion and rich pastas, and it can stand up to that. I mean, obviously, rosés from Provence and that Mediterranean cuisine from that area is a classic pairing, and it can really stand up to those kind of powerful flavors.
Well, we're actually in a restaurant that specializes in Mediterranean cuisine.
Yes, we are. Well, we're at Usia, which is one of my favorite Greek restaurants really in the country and certainly in New York. they have a great wine list. They pour a lot of rosés by the glass in the summer. And I think, you're looking at a salad of feta cheese and tomatoes and olives, a phyllo pie with wild greens and herbs, lamb cooked very simply with a light touch with a lot of herbs and garlic. Those are foods that are incredible with a range of rosés. I think those really powerful herbal flavors can be really beautiful with rosé.
And definitely not just, I think the assumption or maybe the association with rosé is light food. It is salads, seafood, light dishes, but it does really, really well with heartier dishes.
It
like
does.
You mentioned lamb. I love rosé with a good steak.
Yep.
It's such a fun and delicious pairing, and I think that people, really need to experiment, and I would recommend trying. I mean, it's a little bit of a fun test, get a bottle of rosé and as many different types of dishes as you can.
Yeah,
and see
get
if you
a few
can
rosés.
See if you can, exactly. A few rosés, see if you can trip them up.
I think rosés are great with pizza. They're great with almost anything you would grill. They're amazing with charcuterie, pâtés, smoked and cured meat. I think they're great with egg dishes. Rosé for breakfast can I say that?
Can you?
A good
you should.
with omelets, quiche is really great.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Why do you think rosé as a category has gotten so big in the U.S.? It seems to be continuing to grow, but why do you think that is?
I think, a lot of times we talk about rosé as a trend, but also there's a lot of the quality of rosés in the country has improved hugely just in a really short period of time. So I think part of it is that the rosés that people have access to at a really good price point are a lot better than they were, 2, 5, 10 years ago.
Right. So the access to great rosés is greater.
Yeah.
And just the actual volume of good rosés has grown in the U.S.
For
Not
sure.
only in the U.S., worldwide, really. And I think people's palates have evolved. And, we talk a lot about this at the magazine, how the American palate has evolved so much as far as food goes, for sure.
Yeah.
Just understanding nuances, regional cuisine, really being more discerning and more experimental. And I think that's part of what's really fun about wines like the rosé category is they sort of follow suit and they're going along with that evolution.
Yeah.
And so they're great food wines, but they're also, it's a category that has a lot of diversity within it. And I think people are excited to give it a shot and try the different styles.
And I think the way that we eat now, where you're talking about a lot of different flavors in one meal, you might be sharing a lot of different courses.
Yeah.
You might be having a dish that kind of is, maybe has an Indian influence next to a dish that has a Spanish influence, and rosé can bridge a lot of those really strong flavors.
Okay, so when you, in your mind, just a flash, when you think of drinking rosé, where are you?
Provence.
Okay, so
I can't help it.
Okay, so you're in Provence, but
Yeah.
what are you doing?
I am renting a house with friends. Someone else is firing up the grill while I'm at the market shopping for seafood. Cheese. Somebody is putting together a cheese and charcuterie platter while I'm preparing the fish and meat for the grill. And we're basically uncorking a million rosés and getting ready to have a giant outdoor barbecue.
That sounds amazing. Well, speaking of rosé, we have Kamal from Usia walking up to the table right now and handing us 2 glasses of rosé, which, these look delicious.
Great.
Kamal is a wine director here at Usia, and he is also an expert in Greek wine. And, we were just talking about categories, or we've been talking about categories in the rosé sphere that are growing, and Greece is one of them. And Greece has some really amazing rosé wines. So what do we have here?
So in your first glass, I poured you the Alpha State Rosé. It's 100% Xino Mavro from the northern Greece parts, a region called Florina in Macedonia. Very cool climate region, so something very unique. A lot of people don't associate cool climates with Greece. The fact that the only thing they know is beaches and sands, and so that's the difference. That's why I want to show you something very crisp, very lean, very fresh. A lot of customers of ours, they are into rosés lately, so you see a lot of people asking for rosé. But also there is the people of rosé that really enjoy savory ones, and then there's one of them. So it's not in a fruity side, but more savory character because of the grape Casino Mavro.
Yeah, we were talking about just within the rosé category, all of the different styles that you can find. And then even within, say, a category like Greek rosé, all of the diversity you can find depending on where it's grown, what the grapes are. And like you said, there are a lot of people who they don't prefer, maybe they prefer a more robust style of rosé or a more herbal style of rosé as opposed to, something that's fruitier, that sort of thing. So, well, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, Kamal.
Cheers. Enjoy.
So what would you pair this wine with?
This is screaming for something from off the grill with summer upon us and ahead of us. So something grilled, some lamb will be fantastic grilled. If you want to do it, even some seafood grill, I would love to do. Usually home, we get some lobsters, we split them, put them on top of the grill with some lemon. With the rosé, works very well. So that's the unique thing about the Greek rosés as well.
The color is so beautiful. I think, again, you can't get around how beautiful rosé as a wine is, just in the glass. And this one's a really, really nice pale pink. But again, it's deceptive because, it has that very pale color, but there's a lot of flavor in here.
Definitely. It's made from Casino Mavro, so that's a big, robust, intriguing variety that can give you some bold red. But when it comes to rosé, it still gives you some structure with a lot of diverse flavors as you tasted. But the unique thing about this is the minerality and the crisp character of it. Just can stand to a lot of food, Not only Greek food, but you can try it with any other nice burger with some manchego cheese and some bacon can do very well with this.
That's another thing. Most rosés go really well with most cheeses, and it's not always a wine that people talk about with wine and food pairing with cheese. But
rosé is a very versatile grape, and especially for me, understanding Greek rosés. From, as Susan, you said, they come from different parts of Greece, different grape variety, the savoir-faire of different style of winemakers. So then the umbrella becomes so huge, and you can satisfy a lot of palates, when it comes to rosé.
So we have another wine on the table that sort of, the color is so different. We went from a very pretty salmon, pale pink wine. This one's got like more of a ruby color to it. So tell us what the second wine is.
Yes, it's called Granatus, pomegranate basically. It's by Domaine Papayannakos from Athens, and it's a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon and indigenous grape called Aioritiko, which is usually grows in Nemea, but it grows all over Greece right now. And it's you can see it is like the color Susan described, very vibrant. Again, structure, good acidity, minerality. It's just what the land of Attica gives you, a lot sunshine in your glass. That's what you see. See a little bit power behind it. Again, cheeses, no doubt. Blue cheese, something more pungent. Grilled meat, seafood is a versatile. Meaning, you go to a party and everybody bring food, bring a bottle of rosé and you'll be safe. Everything will goes with it.
Yeah.
And again, I think, you said it's summer in a glass type of thing. There is an association with it that's just so pleasant. And it really makes you want to. Nils was talking actually about where he imagines himself when he drinks rosé, and he said that he would be grilling outside in Provence. What about you, Kamal?
Definitely on a beach in Greece, by an island. One of those islands, there's thousands of them. So say a little bit in island of Tinos. I visit a lot, grilling by the beach. Again, like I said, grilling is seafood, and you will not go wrong with either place, so.
I've noticed with a lot of the Greek rosés that I've tried, and I've been lucky enough to try a lot of them at your restaurants, there's kind of a savory herbal quality that, as different as they are, they share this kind of savory undertone. Do you find that also?
Most definitely. That's what I mentioned earlier. They are more savory than fruity. I feel the terroir has something to do with it. They have sense of place, that's what I enjoy about them. We're serving 6 rosé at Usia right now. So from each rosé you get different nuance and flavors of terroir, and you can see that savory element. Most of the grape are organically grape, so there is that almost integration between the land and the grape. It sounds easy to say, but that's the truth. And so there's less manipulation on the wine. Is more about simple, easy going. Take care of it in the vineyard, and then the wine will transport to your glass.
Kamal, why do you think rosé has become so much more popular in the U.S. over the last several years?
Well, you did, guys, a great job by talking about it and promoting it and making people understand, because a lot of people didn't understand rosé. People think about rosé as a poor man wine, bad wine, a mixture of two, maybe wine and red. So a lot of people don't understand rosé. Rosé is very serious wine. It's a wine that is at the same time you can have fun with it. Very versatile, can cover a lot of aspects of palates. That's the unique thing about it. Most of the difficult pairing, you can turn to rosé. That's what helps. That's the first. You did a great job by promoting that, and now you see people getting better at rosé. They want to try something different. The palates of a rosé drink evolved also as well. So that's what's happened with rosé in the last few years, I would say.
What are some other areas in Greece that you think are kind of exciting as far as rosé production?
Nemea, high elevation Aioritico, about 3,000 feet, makes a fantastic rosés. Then you have, of course, the island with diverse grape variety like Paros. I introduced this new grape called Mavro Aidani by Moraiti, very savory again, and you see almost a little bit of seashell, sea salt, spray of sea salt in your glass, gives you a little different element. Of course, Amindion, which is the only PDO appellation to make rosé. So they made rosé before anybody knew rosé in Greece. They felt the grape gives them that. And rosé is growing in Attica, central Greece, also in Catalonia. They make that beautiful rosé. So most of the region in Greece.
So it sounds like everywhere in Greece, from every grape, they're making rosé.
That's what, meaning there is some grape that do very well, rosé. So mostly you will see Cabernet Syrah, a little bit of Grenache, So but the indigenous what make them more important, like Xino Mavro, Aioritico, Mavro Aidani. There's also a blend of.
You make those words sound so easy to pronounce and read.
It only took me 20 years. Don't be afraid to go to a wine shop or a restaurant and ask for Greek rosé. Go with one, and I think you enjoy it. Just look for a fresh rosé with the vintage is very important, of course. Even though some of them age very well. And you will do good. You will have fun with them. It's something unique when you try something new, something more exciting. I know Provence is Provence, but it makes some fantastic one, no doubt. But you can step out of that and try something very different, and I'm sure you're not going to be disappointed with other countries as well.
And eat it with a lot of lamb and wild greens and feta cheese and olives, and you'll be happy.
And you'll be dancing, actually.
Sounds amazing.
I'm Pierrick Bouquet, co-founder of Picnic and La Nuit en Rosé, two large-scale rosé wine festivals, and also a rosé ambassador.
So, Pierrick, obviously rosé as a category is blowing up in the U.S. It's been amazing. I mean, I live in New York City, and I feel like in the last 5 years, every spring or summer that I look in a wine shop window, the rosé bottles grow and grow and grow. So it's obvious that there's a big trend and there's a big movement towards more rosé going on. And I kind of feel like you might be part of that. So I really want to talk about your events and really how did La Nuit en Rosé start? What was your inspiration for founding that?
Well, La Nuit en Rosé started 4 years ago. So definitely, in those last 5 years where you've been seeing like this huge rosé trend and rosé movement. So 5 years ago, I actually thought about organizing the first rosé wine festival. I was going to a lot of wine events, and I was seeing like the experience for me was missing something. Like I had the feeling that a lot of the events were too much focused on the wine, or sometimes too much focused on the food, and the experience was just left, And
so maybe not enough of sort of the lifestyle around the wine.
Exactly, Suzanne. So with rosé, there was an opportunity to create a much larger experience and incorporate wine, food, and also, the occasion of drinking rosé. So La Nuit Rosé started as a rosé cruise concept, and this is why actually it is still very popular as of today. Just because we are a little different, we're on the water. It's a simple idea, but someone had to do it.
Right.
It might not have worked with red wine or white wine. It's probably worked very well with rosé, because when you drink rosé, you want to be transported to a different place, and I feel like being on the yacht, being on the water, give you this feeling.
Yeah, I really believe that rosé wine as a category, there is something about the lifestyle of it. Almost more than many other wines. There's something about you really, when you drink it, you think of the places that you've been when you've had it, on a beach or on a boat. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it has such a transportive sort of element to it?
I think that, first of all, the origin, of rosé being associated with the south of France, and the Côte de Provence being along the Mediterranean Sea. It's a beautiful place. Even people that haven't been, they still know where it's located, and they still could picture themselves like being in the Riviera of France. So I feel like this has a big impact in people's mind, like just the location of where the rosé movement started, in Provence. Now, I do think that rosé is not a complicated wine to understand. And when saying that, when you say, well, you drink rosé and you feel transported to a place, it's exactly that. You don't feel like trying to understand the wine. That it's.
I mean, there are obviously great and beautiful rosés that are made, but in general, as a category, I think you're right. It's something that most people can enjoy, can understand. It's delicious. It's refreshing overall, even within the different categories. So yeah.
Exactly, and that's kind of the message I'm pushing through these events. I don't want to make rosé a complicated wine to understand. I don't want this to be another category of wine where people feel like they don't have the knowledge enough to approach those wines. So that's also why I was saying, like, a much younger generation, like being so interested in this category of wine. And you've been to my events, you've seen like mostly women in their late 20s, early 30s that are all about this wine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that in the early stages of it really getting popular in the U.S., it was mostly younger women that you were watching and seeing interested. But now, because of it's such a food wine, that I think it's really starting to expand beyond just that small category of wine drinkers. It's really becoming anybody who's really into food, which, of course, now you're getting all of the guys involved. People who enjoy... a lot of the sparkling wine people, champagne people are drawn to the rosés. And so I think even at your events, I've seen a change in who's there. It's a lot more of a diversity of ages, of people, of gender. So I think it has that ability to, as a category, as a wine, to appeal to a lot of different people for different reasons.
That is true, and at our events we try to actually create different experiences to attract different clientele. So, and we also organize wine pairing dinners where we only feature the most expensive, the most high-end rosé cuvées that are on the market today, and we're actually launching La Nuit Rosé in the Hamptons this summer. And we'll kick off the festival with a rosé wine pairing dinner where the goal is really to showcase the versatility of this category, and see what are those top rosé on the market today.
Are you expanding into other markets? So if people listening to this are interested in going to some of the events, they can, obviously not just have to come to New York. Where else are you doing these, or do you want to do these?
Yes, I want to expand even more. Right now we are in Miami, Los Angeles, New York, and the Hamptons. We want to expand beyond those 4 markets. However, we are very cautious about where we want to go next. We're thinking Texas. It's a market that we are really interested in, that we would like to educate people on rosé. Something that I didn't mention, like the reason why I started La Nuit Rosé, was really to educate people on this category of wine. Show the diversity of this category, that is not just Weizenfender, for example. Like, not all rosé are sweet. I mean, it started with this simple, idea. Now people already know that. So now the idea is really to show new regions. Here we're testing actually a Greek wine. Greek has been, coming up with amazing rosé lately. Italy has been coming up with amazing rosé. So it's not just about France anymore. We're talking about USA, like a lot of like Californian wineries or New York-based wineries are making rosé, amazing rosé. They're using, techniques from Provence. They're using great varieties used in the south of France. And, we're starting to see on the market an amazing diversity. And this is why I'm very proud of Lannion Rosé, because this is what we're showcasing, and this is the full spectrum of rosé.
Yeah, I mean, I actually love that that your events encompass global rosé. So it's rosé made from all over the world, and it's amazing. It is incredible the diversity of rosé that's being made, and like you say, the quality levels really come up. So you can experiment. It can be a rosé from Hungary. It can be a rosé from California. It can, of course, be a rosé from the Rhone or from Provence. Wherever, the quality levels are there. And it's also just a fun wine to drink, as we were saying. Again, there is such a lifestyle connection to these wines. And I think that's part of why it's really fun that you're doing the things that you're doing. And one of the other things I want to mention that Perique is doing is he's doing something called Picnic. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Picnic, it's all about the experience of drinking rosé. So I was talking about Lannion Rosé being more on the education side, where we showcase a lot of wine from a lot of different regions, and we pair the wine with a different type of food. At Picnic, this is an outdoor picnic and music festival, which is for us, is the best moment, the best time to drink rosé. So it's the first weekend of the summer, June 24th and 25th, in a perfect setting, on St. Governor's Island. So we're not on a boat this time, but we're on an island.
This is New York, by the way, if you're not from New York.
This is still in New York, but same thing. We will expand to other markets in the near future. And it's a very large-scale event. Here we're talking about having 12,000 people come up for the weekend and drink rosé all day while listening to some beautiful artists. It's a mix of bands and DJs. We pair the wine with a lot of different type of food. We have a food court this year. We are actually adding a pool. People also have to dress in pink and white, or pink or white, they choose. But we create an aesthetic that is actually also very important and part of the experience. So we're very excited about Picnic this year.
Yeah. We at the magazine talk a lot about the context of wine. So there is obviously the need to talk about the technical elements of a wine, to rate a wine, to talk about, the quality, et cetera. But there's also, I think, we're all getting better at telling the story of how to incorporate these wines into your lifestyle. And I think most people want to know. I love that you are incorporating the whole picture, and you're offering all of that. And I think that's why your events have really picked up. I would like to talk to you a little bit, being the rosé ambassador that you are and the rosé expert that you are. I'd love for you to talk about maybe the first rosé you tried that really sort of knocked your socks off. If you remember, like, wow, that was incredible. But first, tell me where in France you're from.
I'm from Paris.
You're from Paris, okay.
There's no rosé wine made in Paris.
Yeah, but there's a lot of rosé wine drunk in Paris. Okay,
true.
But maybe as an adult, rosé that you might remember now.
Yeah, what I remember is that my parents really liked the rosé from the Loire Valley. And so I remember having beautiful Sancerre rosé on the table. And this, I think, blew my mind. And still nowadays, and the quality, I think, has also increased tremendously in terms of, Sancerre rosé on the market today. So these rosé made of 100% Pinot Noir are just beautiful in terms of acidity, minerality, and that's the kind of rosé I like, because I like to have my rosé with food. And so when I pair wine with food, I'll go with a Sancerre rosé for choice.
Mm-hmm. I, again, can't go wrong with the good Sancerre rosé. I would agree with that. But what are some that you think are really exciting? Some areas making rosé that are up and coming, maybe, that you think are worth talking about?
So some of the regions that I look for, are Corsica. Corsica is a beautiful region for wine, not just rosé, but 60% of their wine production is actually rosé. Most of the people don't know that, and you can find a great diversity of rosé in Corsica. You know, the Corsican rosé from the north part of the south part are going to be really different. But yeah, Corsica is definitely an interesting region, competing with Provence, big time in terms of variety and diversity. Same price point category. They are not cheap wines, but definitely delicious. Then I'm really interested in American rosé. I think that's where France has to worry about. Especially Provence should be very careful there, because we're starting to see amazing wines made here in the States, and I believe when America will make rosé as good as Provence rosé, and then people will drink local. Same thing happened with Bordeaux, and this beautiful Cab and Merlot made in California. So why not rosé? So, and I talked to Wine of Provence about that. I said, let's be careful.
Well, I mean, I think that's a good point. For the consumer, for the listener, you have so many great options. Don't be afraid to experiment. For people in our industry, don't get too comfortable. I mean, there's competition out there, which is, I think, healthy, but it does sort of change the dialogue. So, actually, rosé as a category, again, I would say it's been. Would you say about 5 years since it's really been sort of very obviously blowing up on the market?
No, yeah, definitely the last 5 years. And I think we can trace back this if you look at not just wine publication, like Wine Enthusiast has been writing about rosé for more than just 5 years, but when you look at lifestyle publications like fashion magazine like Vogue, starting to write about rosé I think about 4 or 5 years ago, and now every year more and more fashion magazines are talking about rosé, and they are not just talking about the wine, they're talking about the color. That's also something we didn't touch base on, but that's also very, very important. One of the reasons of the success of this category of wine is simply the color. Like, it's just pretty. It's a trendy color right now. Things around us being pink.
Millennial pink, is that right?
Yeah. And so it definitely makes people, dream. It makes people feel like they cannot identify this wine to their parents' wines. That's also very important as well.
That's a good point. You did touch on that earlier, and I think it's worth talking about. In the American market, there was such a negative perception of rosé for so many years because of White Zinfandel, because there were wines that we had, not being French and not having maybe the access to the great wines that you had growing up. Our parents, I guess it would be more our parents, they were drinking White Zinfandel. That is something that I think finally in our market, our culture, is working its way out. Younger wine drinkers don't have the fear of rosé that maybe older people do.
Yeah, and what's very interesting in the U.S. market, if you compare to the French market, is rosé is a premium wine. I call it here the champagne of the millennial, because it has been branded only recently. We're talking 5 years. When in France, it's been a wine that has been on the shelves in the supermarkets for a very long time. Usually, at the bottom part of the shelves, in a pretty low price point. That's what I remember from my childhood in France. And it's still there, but now also in France, it's starting to get a bit more premium as well. I think, one winery that is above all is Château d'Esclans, that made a great job at positioning this category.
Whispering Angel.
But it was not easy for them. They worked hard for 10 years before really getting Whispering Angel into the hands of the people and the restaurants and the retail stores. But yeah, I mean, they brought a premium rosé, at $19 to $25 to the market. So affordable, more affordable than Domaine Haute or Chateau Minuty that were already on the market for many years. And they kept pushing this brand, and now they're introducing new brands. Rock Angel is next. Rock Angel is a Provence rosé in the $30 to $40 price range. So rosé is getting more premium.
Do you think that rosé is a trend that will end, or do you think it's here to stay in this market?
I think it's here to stay now. What might be a trend is this whole fashion aspect of rosé. Having all these fashion publication talk about rosé all the time when summer kicks off. This might actually stop at some point when rosé will be at a level that is big enough. I mean, think that in France we drink more rosé than white wine. It was still far from being there in the US. So I don't think it's a trend. We talk a lot about the seasonality of rosé. I believe that rosé can be enjoyed all year long. However, what made also the success of this wine is probably its seasonality, because people get so excited about the idea of drinking rosé outside in the summertime, but it's definitely like still a seasonal wine.
Well, and I think it is a wine, though, that it can be drunk year-round, enjoyed year-round. It's an easy wine to choose and know that you will have a good experience with it, which I think is, that's obviously perfect. I mean, most wine drinkers, I think, don't want to have to worry too much about what they're drinking. They want something good, obviously. They want a good price, but they don't want to fall down a rabbit hole too much with it. And I think that rosé as a category has that. I feel like rosé as a category has been pretty innovative in its marketing and how it is sort of presenting itself, meaning the producers and the different categories. Don't you agree?
Yes, definitely is a category of wine that has seen a lot of like creative ideas from the packaging aspect. So we're seeing a lot more of rosé in a can, and we see much more rosé in a can than white or red in a can. The wine in a can movement has been growing, but rosé in a can is definitely getting bigger and bigger, just because rosé is a wine to be enjoyed, by the beach and in an outdoor environment. So it's a great, in my opinion, as long as the wine in the packaging is good.
Yeah.
And we've seen also fun concepts as far as brands. The first one I would think about is Summer Water, from those girls, Yes Way Rosé, that started this Yes Way Rosé movement. They started selling merchandising on their website and sharing beautiful pictures of drinking rosé. We're talking about the lifestyle of drinking rosé. Like these are the girls who also started it. So now they launched a wine called Summer Water, Californian-based, quite interesting wine, and definitely they have the following community behind it. So that's interesting. We've seen a wine coming up this year called Rosé All Day, which has been one of the most used hashtags when people post pictures on internet. And so, someone just launched a Rosé All Day wine. And, just for a little scoop, we're launching our own brand. It's called Rosé S'il vous plaît. And I didn't want to come up with, a typical rosé. So it's actually a rosé mimosa. It's a rosé cocktail. And I think, the category is open to new and creative ideas like this, and we want to target maybe a younger generation of drinkers with that would, then drink Corsican, Provence rosé, US-based rosé, but maybe introduce them to rosé with a rosé mimosa. That is not too sweet. Very important to mention, because the market is asking for drier and drier wines.
Okay, so I have one more question for you. This might be slightly loaded, so get ready. We were talking earlier about, I think initially when rosé started growing on the American market, it was perceived as a female wine because of the color. So what would you say to a man who said, especially maybe macho American guy saying, well, I can't drink rosé. I'm not going to stand here with a glass of pink wine in my hand. Do you think that's changed?
Yeah, it's changing. Definitely. We're seeing more and more men drinking rosé on the terrace of cafes or outdoor events also. What I would do and what I would say is, like, I would blind test this person and challenge this person to tell me if it's a white wine or if it's a rosé. It's actually pretty funny to do at home, where sometimes it's really difficult when you're blindfolded to differentiate a white wine from a rosé. And so, then it's a matter of the color. But the color is part of our culture now. So I feel like more and more men are more confident. Men are more confident about wearing pink, and drinking pink.
Right. I agree. I think we've evolved, which is a good thing. Well, I would like to toast you. Good luck with
Thank
your
you.
events. And we're excited about rosé, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you more as the category grows.
Thank you,
So
Sam.
thanks.
This podcast is produced by Large Media, LARJ Media. Wine Enthusiast is made possible by grapes, sunshine, and wine, and by the hard-working editors who bring you news and information on your favorite beverage every day. If you like what we're doing, share our podcast with your friends and give us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. For more fun wine information, follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Wine Enthusiast.